Hi, my name is Rina Han, and my group member will talk about government policies about home buyers grant. My group member have different part of content to explain. This is my content. First, I will explain the first question and talk about my idea about increase the first home buyers grant. According the article, we can know this article illustrates homebuyers grant should rise to keep up with prices and give more resources to analyze. This is the first question. The first question is in the short term, the supply curve is least likely to be A is horizontal, B is vertical, C is positively sloped. I draw the picture. I draw the demand and the supply curve in the picture. In the first, I draw axis. This is the axis. And to show the relationship of supply curve, the abscissa represents the quantity, and the ordinate represents the price. This is the ordinate to show the price. For the demand curve, normally, when the grant same, the price of the new house will rise and the number of buyers will remain reduced. So this is the demand curve. Another is supply curve. With the increase of grant, people's ability to buy houses has increased, which has led to an increase in demand for houses. So this is the supply curve. However, in the short term, it's difficult to make price adjustments so in the supply curve, the price remains the same and the quantity rises. Is change supply to the right curve. So the original supply curve is close to vertical. This is close to the vertical. Now the price remains the same and the quantity increases. So the new curve has changed, which is closer to the level than before. Therefore, the key is choose A, horizontal. This is my idea to analyze the first question. So that's all. Okay, that's all. And my group member, Jialin, will explain the second question. Thank you.
Hi there, and get charge of the question 2 and Jialin Chen. Question 2 is asking about what's going to happen of the doubling the grant on the housing market. Answer A is talking about the shift in the supply and demand curve to the right. B is a shift in the demand curve to the right and a movement up along the supply curve. C is a shift in the demand curve to the left and a movement down along the supply curve. D, and there will be no effect. Now we're gonna see what's gonna happen after the grant increase. First, the purchasing of house will rise, and then demand house will increase in the market. So that will lead to the demand curve shift right. And we can see this the graph 1, which is before the grant got increased here, and the supply demand just as normal. After the demand increased, grant increased, then demand of the market will increase too. So we can see the demand curve 1 shift to the demand curve 2. So based on the graph I was showed, the answer is B.
Hi everyone, I'm Hao Han. Let's talk about the question 3. And this is the question, and my answer is B, the sellers. The article shows that the real estate market is a supplier-led market. And so this one picture is original graph, and this is the after graph. If the grant amount increases from P1 point increase to P2 point, When grants increase, the number of home purchase will increase from quantity 1 to quantity 2. The sellers will also increase the housing price accordingly, and this picture shows that the equilibrium point will also rise from E1 point to E2 point, so the sellers will benefit. For buyers of the first home, buying a house is certainty. Even if the price of the house is high, it must be bought, so the sellers can increase the price. Next, Raymond will talk the advantage of increase the grant.
Finally, we will talk about own idea. The question is, would you increase the first home buyer's grant? For me, I will increase the grant because it takes a process to increase the price of a house. In this world, there are many poor persons and people with general family housing conditions. They can't afford a house, so increase the price of buying a house for the first time. The grant helps them afford the housing. In addition, in the long term, increasing the grant can increase housing prices and benefit the Land Management Bureau, because through land bidding, the higher price obtains the land, which raises the original price of the land, makes the market competitive, promotes good economic development.
For the final question of increasing the first home buyer's grant, I'm not choose to increase grant. The first and most obvious point is that after the government increases housing grants for first home buyers, it will increase state expenditures, and it can increase the government pressure. It is very serious. Second, after the implementation of the policy of increasing grants, more funds will enter the market because the policy will blindly attract people from different classes to invest in housing. For example, for many fresh graduate students, many of them have the idea of buying a house. Once the government issues this measure, their desire to buy a house will become greater. The mortgage will be like invisible pressure. They will probably use more than 50% of their wages to repay the loan every month. This will reduce people's quality of life, and 10 years will be constrained by mortgage loans. For many younger adults, it is not a good idea to enjoy their life and have their freedom. Yeah. And the last point is, because the grant is paid by the government, although it will make more people choose to buy a house, but it may not be a good news for suppliers and real estate. So many problems will arise when the delivery date is reached. For example, supplier delay giving people keys, or there are many problems with their supplier attitude and the house quality. Therefore, it is very risky for the first home buyer to increase the grant, and this is my ideas. And the last slide is my reference about my speech. So next, Jialing will talk about the summary. Yeah, that's it.
Now we hear the two classmates of my group talking about the advantages and disadvantages. Now we have a conclusion part. Advantage of increasing grant. There are 4 points here. First, help low-income buy house. And second is lead to an increase of demand curve of house market. And third one is make a positive competition in the market. By the firms bid the price and the land and the resource go through the land management sector in the government. And fourth, there's going to be a positive economic growth. Now, disadvantages of rising grant. First, there gonna be a raising of the government spending, which is government have to cut off their spending for other sections. For example, like the public goods, build schools, build hospitals, like that. Secondly, is there's some investable pressures of fresh graduates who wants to buy a house because the grant is increased, but actually they don't have the ability to afford a house, so they have to borrow money from the bank. And for the maybe next 10 years, even more, they have to pay back the loan from the bank and high interest. And the third one is when the demand of house got increased, firms have to build more, but they can't make sure the qualities of goods as well as before, and the seller's attitude can't be make sure too. Maybe they have some bad attitudes to the consumers, which can make a bad shopping experience for the consumers. Now we have some solutions of the negatives. First of all, government could raise the tax of other goods for the budget deficit, then they can get some money back. And secondly is government can go through some policies to get a lower interest for loan for the fresh graduates, which can make them have less pressures to buy a house and pay back the loans. And third one is all the treatments can go through the fair trading, which is the government sector can make sure the qualities of house the consumers buying are good, and the sellers won't have bad attitudes to the consumers, which can get a very good shopping experience for the consumers in the market. And then that's all. Thank you for the watching.